How does Nintendo get away with it time and time again? Whether it's the price of the Switch 2, whether it's $80 games, whether it's the power of the Switch 2, patenting video game mechanics, going after Palworld. Well, I think it's because Nintendo understands the market and they understand the consumer base. And they know of the one golden rule of gaming. You can get away with anything so long as you make good games. Hello everybody. I am Jmulls and let's get into it.
Virtual Boy.
It seems like every week we get a new controversy for Nintendo. Half of them are around Palworld as well. And if you go by online discourse, there is a lot of negative coverage surrounding Nintendo right now. A lot of their peripherals are extremely expensive. People view the Switch 2 to also be expensive, and the idea of $80 games can be very abhorrent to anyone. And this has been following the Switch 2 ever since its announcement. But every time we get a new sales update for the Switch 2, it's blowing the competition out of the water and outpacing the original Switch, which went on to become one of the biggest consoles of all time. So what is it about Nintendo? Well, it's like I said, I think they understand the golden rule of this games industry. You can do whatever you want, misbehave as much as you want, so long as at the end of the day, you put out a trailer for a really cool game people are going to forget. It is a powerful rule of the internet. A lot of people out there have short-term memory and they just simply don't care because at the end of the day, they want to sit down, relax, and play their favorite games. And so long as Nintendo continues to provide games that people really much enjoy, that is going to continue to be the case for Nintendo. And I think the current state of everything is only exaggerated because the competition doesn't really provide ample competition for Nintendo anymore. Xbox and PlayStation have seemingly gone their own separate way, content to allow Nintendo to exist in its own bubble, but at the same time, yeah, we can admit the Switch 2 can be rather pricey at $450, but then what happens with the competition? Oh look, Xbox has raised their prices across the board twice, where the Series S at 512 gigabytes is $400. The S with 1 terabyte is $449.99. The Series X digital is $600, and the Series X basic version is $650. And if you want 2 terabytes in the Galaxy Black Special Edition, that's $799.99. Okay, but Xbox is not really in nowadays. What about PlayStation? Well, not too long ago, back in August, they also raised their prices, where the PlayStation 5 is now $550, the digital edition is $500, and the PS5 Pro is $750. Granted, the current economic state of the world is one thing, but for the average consumer, they're just going to be comparing the prices, and they can look at any of these other consoles, and then they look at the Switch 2 and go, well, I like Nintendo games. I guess that's just how it is nowadays. Especially as PC gaming seemingly gets bigger and bigger with each year, you gotta imagine the mental calculus people are doing is that if they care about Xbox games, they might as well just play it on PC. I know that's what I do. But if you care about Nintendo games, you have to go to the Nintendo ecosystem. You have to get a Switch or a Switch 2. There's just no other way around it if you want to do it legally. And look, I know Nintendo games aren't necessarily everyone's cup of tea, but they are a lot of people's cup of tea. As is evident if you go to just look at the Amazon most wished for games list. A lot of them are Nintendo games, or even just Switch 2 versions or Switch versions of other games. The thing with online discourse is that it can be very easy to seclude yourself in your own little bubble of the internet, into your own little echo chamber where you just hear the opinions of people that are like you, or the people that you surround yourself with online, but that isn't necessarily indicative of what the general consensus is for when it comes to gaming. A lot of people out there love Nintendo games, and the games that Nintendo still puts out are massively successful. Look at games like Donkey Kong Bonanza. Whatever you think about Pokemon, is anyone expecting the new Pokemon game to sell badly? I'm not. I'm not at all.
Virtual Boy.
Most people out there aren't paying attention to a lot of the controversies. It's the internet. You can generally find a few thousand people to agree with any particular idea or topic. But when it comes to people on the whole, most people I imagine don't particularly care about any of these online controversies. They don't care about the Palworld stuff, even if they probably should. They just want to play a really good game, and a lot of people just like Nintendo games. They may not like every Nintendo game, but generally speaking, for a lot of people, they like a few Nintendo games. Heck, my favorite series of all time is a Nintendo franchise with Xenoblade Chronicles. Another one of my favorite games this year was Donkey Kong Bonanza, and also the Switch 2 port of Bravely Default. So when it comes to the Switch, which was a piece of kit a lot of people liked because it was readily accessible, had a bunch of games, and allowed you to play it the way you wanted to, whether that was docked or undocked at any given point in time, that appealed to a casual fan base, families, and also just to regular gamers. Because people like, turns out, being able to play games when and where they want. So when the Switch 2 rolls around, yeah, quite a few people online can be pessimistic and go, oh, it's just a Switch, but slightly more powerful. A lot of people out there will retort and say, you know what? It's something that I like, but even better. Yeah, that's gonna sell like hotcakes. And who knows, maybe over time, the sales figures will start to die down and wane, but like, my god, we're not really seeing that yet. I mean, I have a Switch 2 and I played a hell of a lot more than I do my PS5. I'm just one person, but I can't imagine I'm the only one. Look, I am not someone that's going to buy into the whole console wars side of things, right? I think that stuff is giga cringe. And there is a lot that Nintendo does and still do that I think should be called out and critiqued, 100%, beyond a shadow of a doubt. But I also think Nintendo's success right now is also an indictment of everyone else in this industry, particularly Xbox and PlayStation, because they're just not up to snuff anymore where they can provide ample competition to Nintendo, so it allows Nintendo to do all these things and get away with it. I don't think it's fair to say that the PS5 and the Xbox Series generation of consoles don't have games. I know that's a popular meme that goes around and I get it, but I also think for a lot of people they just view Nintendo as to have more games and also better games overall, with a larger sense of variety. Now, whether or not it actually holds up isn't really important to the point I'm trying to make. I'm saying that is the perception for a lot of people out there. So when a lot of people already have a rather pessimistic view of this current console generation from Xbox and PlayStation, and then they see their prices continue to increase, again, even if it's kind of understandable with the current state of the economic landscape of the world, I'm just saying a lot of people are probably looking at that and going, you know what, maybe the Switch 2 isn't that bad of a deal. And then every few months, Nintendo has a new Direct announcing a huge suite of games coming out for the next few months, and just that value proposition that the Switch and the Switch 2 just have so many games continues to get bigger and more enticing for a lot of people.
Virtual Boy.
So where do we go from here? And honestly, I think Nintendo just stays the course because it's working for them. They can do dumb things like bringing back the Virtual Boy of all things for some reason, because they just keep putting games out that quite a few people out there want to pick up. Maybe they don't want to pick up every game, but generally speaking, for a lot of people, there's probably a game or two at every Direct they care about. Or there's a game to come that they know is almost certainly coming that they care about. When it comes to PlayStation and Xbox, what I think they're going to do for the next generation is to try and get aboard that Switch bandwagon and put out a console, or at least some kind of feature that gives them portability, or a hybrid model. PlayStation tried this with the Portal, it was the Portal, and Xbox is currently trying to do this with the Asus ROG Ally thing they're putting out. But I wouldn't be surprised if the next generation of Xbox and PlayStation consoles has that more baked into the core experience, because it is a very powerful thing to be able to advertise that, hey, if you want to play this like a traditional console, just at a TV or at a desk, you can do that. And if you need to go to the other room, or you just want to pick up your console and go and play it, you can also do that. That is a powerful thing in the modern day. Handheld gaming has always been a very popular thing, going all the way back to the days of the Game Boy. People like games, and they like being able to play games the way they want to play, and when they want to play them, and where they want to play. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if PlayStation and Xbox try to get in on that, and I think the success of that endeavor will entirely depend upon the execution, their price point, and also the games they put out for the next generation, and also the list of games that'll work on their consoles. Like, never say never, things can change drastically going from one generation to the next. I mean, come on. We saw this going from the 360 and the heights Xbox were at in that generation to the Xbox One, or the doldrums Nintendo were in during the Wii U era, only to find this breakout success with the Switch. The market is always evolving, and someone can always just step in and have a breakout period of success after a perceived lull period, right? That can always happen, and it can always go in reverse. What I'm saying is, if the status quo maintains, I think Nintendo only continues to see more success because their formula is a winning one. They're allowed to get away with whatever they want, they can do whatever they want, they can price things however they want, so long as people view it to be valuable, so long as they put out games that people want to play on a platform that people like playing games on, which is what the Switch and the Switch 2 are. They may not appeal to you particularly or you individually, but for a lot of people out there, they're very popular. And I am someone who is primarily a PC player. That is my preferred ecosystem for games. And I don't really ever see that change. However, I also don't regret my Switch 2 purchase. I very much am enjoying that console and the games that are on it that I've been playing, such as Bravely Default, Mario Kart World whenever I choose to play that game. Donkey Kong Bonanza is one of my favorite games this year. Same with Bravely Default. Nintendo keeps getting away with it because people like Nintendo games. And the way that internet discourse and drama works is that it exists for game companies up until they put out something that people actually like. And then conversation shifts over to that thing, and people stop talking about the thing that got people upset to begin with. And Nintendo gets away with it yet again. It may creep up again in the future, but then Nintendo just puts out another game people like, or they announce another game that people like. And the cycle continues.
Virtual Boy.
You know what? I think Metroid Prime 4 is actually looking pretty good. The silent majority is something often talked about, but I really think it is applicable when it comes to gaming. And as is often the case, a lot of the online discourse and drama don't necessarily represent society as a whole. Because if you go online, you'll see a lot of disagreement and a lot of vitriol surrounding Nintendo and its business practices and policies nowadays. And you'll see people revolting at the idea of paying $70 for Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 on the Switch. And then it's the third most wished for item on Amazon for gaming, behind only a Roblox gift card and the Switch 2 with Mario Kart. I mean, like, there it is. People just simply like Nintendo games. And you know what? I do too. I'm not ashamed about that at all. I love Nintendo games. I don't like every one of them, but when they hit for me, oh boy, they really hit. And here's where you come in. Leave a comment down below with if you've gotten the Switch 2 and if you like it or not. How do you feel about it? What's been your favorite game on the system, or what would be enough to push you into getting the Switch 2? I'd love to hear your thoughts and hear your opinions and hear your perspectives. And speaking of success stories, we need to talk about Trails in the Sky First Chapter, the remake of the very first Trails game. And it's doing very well right now. And if you want to hear more, you should check out this video right here for more. Stay safe, everybody. Have a great day. I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody. Until we meet again.